guide, Jessica. Hi everybody, I'm your second tour guide, Christy, and today we are going to, like Jessica said, head down to where John Harrison lived and died. And in addition, I'm going to give you some fun facts along the way, like about his career and his inventions throughout his life. So let's go! Which was erected in 1953. We're going to take the Holborn exit and walk from there. Red Lion Square, and I'm going to show you how. So here we are right now, and we're going to walk straight up, turn left on Proctor Street, and then turn right towards Red Lion Square, and it'll be on the corner of Red Lion Square and Main Street. So here we are, the John Harrison plaque, which is our first stop on the tour, and there are a bunch of really important reasons why this man is commemorated with this plaque. So I'm going to let Jessica tell you a little bit about his life and kind of his history about when he lived here, including his family. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about his career and kind of what led up to his creation of the Alright, so the last home that John Harrison lived in was in Red Lion Square, and the plaque above me is on the south side of the Summit House. This plaque was, like I told you, erected in 1953 by the London County Council. And so John Harrison, he wasn't born in London, but he spent 39 of his working years in London. And when he moved here, he first lived on Leather Lane in 1737, and then he moved in 1739 to Orange Street, which is on a corner of Red Lion Square, and then later in 1752 he moved to actually here, which at the time was the junction of Lee Street and Red Lion Square, and now today it's Main Street. So because John Harrison was so famous, he not only has a plaque here, but he also has a plaque on the home where he lived in Fulbrief, and he also has another plaque in Westminster Abbey to commemorate him, with the longitude, with the prime meridian line going through his plaque. And so some fun facts about John Harrison was there was actually a book that in class we read about him by David Sobel, and it was called Longitude and subtitled The True Story of a Lone Genius Who Solved the Greatest Scientific Problem of His Time. Now, this book was a big deal because it was the first popular bestseller about horology, and this book was later dramatized for a UK television series by Charles Sturridge in a film for Channel 4 in 1999 called Longitude. This was later broadcasted in the USA by on the A&E channel, and the main actors were Michael Gambon and Jeremy Irons, and so her book was also a basis for the PBS Nova episode entitled Lost at Sea, The Search for Longitude. So now that you know a little bit about John Harrison and this plaque, I'm going to have Christy tell you about his life history and a little about his family and his inventions. Okay, so now that you guys have had a little chance to see the plaque and talk a little bit about John Harrison's life history and kind of how he's commemorated in London, let's head across the street to the park so we can kind of get away from the traffic and talk a little bit more about his invention. So let's go! Okay, so here we are in the park right across the street from the John Harrison Memorial Plaque, and this is called Red Lion Square, again, if you would ever like to come back here. So Jessica kind of told you a little bit about kind of how he was commemorated and kind of the important person that John Harrison was, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you kind of a background about his career overall and his inventions, because those were really what made him famous. So first of all, the unique thing about John Harrison is that he was a carpenter when he was growing up. He actually grew up in northern England, and his father was a parish clerk. And John Harrison was born in 1693, so like I said, he
Gridiron pendulum clock, which is a huge improvement to previous models because it made it a lot more accurate. So the thing that made Jonathan Harrison the most famous, and what you may have heard about him, is that he actually invented the first sea clock and won the longitude prize. Now, when John Harrison was busy making his pendulum clock, he had kind of gotten really into it and realized that clocks that was really what he was interested in. He heard about the longitude prize, and the longitude prize was actually put up by the British royalty because they needed to solve the longitude problem. And I'm sure you've heard all about the longitude problem from other videos, so I won't go too much into that. But basically, they were offering a $20,000 or 20,000 pound prize to see if anyone could get a longitude within a half a degree, which is about $12 million today. So that's a huge prize. So John Harrison found out about this, and he decided he wanted to go after it. So then he proceeded to, the problem was that such a clock, it couldn't be a pendulum clock. So it had to be not only really accurate in short periods of time, but it also had to last over long periods of time. Because some voyages were up to 4 years. So, and it also had to last in really harsh weather conditions, because at sea, it's not always going to be sunny and beautiful. So it had to be resistant to that, as well as the rolling and pitching of the deck. Okay, so John Harrison actually did win the longitude prize eventually, and he won it in 1773, but not before he went through 4 different prototypes of the sea clock. So his first one was called H1, and it took him 5 years to build. So to test it, he sent it on a voyage in 1736, and it correctly predicted the time, the longitude actually, within 60 miles, which means that it was really accurate compared to what they had before. But John was still not very happy about it, and so he went back and wanted to make another prototype. So the British Parliament gave him some kind of stipend money to help him cover his costs and stuff like that. So that allowed him to work on H2, which was ready in 1741. But unfortunately, this wasn't ever tested at sea because at this point the English were going to war with the Spanish, and they were worried that if they sent H2 out on a voyage to test it, the Spanish would actually come into control of it and actually steal it and use it for their own purposes. So then H3 took 17 years. No one really knows why that particular one took so long, but that one, again, it was super accurate, but it still did not perform exactly as you wished. But this invention, this particular clock, we gained 2 valuable additions, which were the bimetallic strip and the caged roller bearings, which helped it become more accurate and more kind of better for a sea clock rather than just a regular clock. So then H4, which was the clock that actually won the longitude prize, took 6 years total. And he was 68 at this point, so he was getting a little bit older. Tested by his son William in 1761, and it was only 5 seconds slow, which is amazing for a clock of that time. So after that, he was awarded, like I said, he was awarded the longitude prize, and he was awarded 8,750 pounds, which again was a huge amount of money. And again, that was in 1773. So to give you a little bit of background, I know I kind of said what John Harrison's father, who he was. He was a parish. And also, a fun fact about John Harrison is that he really had kind of a thing for Elizabeth. There are a lot of Elizabeths in his life. He has 5 children, 3 sons and 2 daughters. And his first wife, Elizabeth, she died in 1726, unfortunately only a year after their birth of their second child. And then his second wife, also Elizabeth, died in 1777. And then John Harrison himself died in... So now that you know a little bit more about his career and his inventions, it's also important to remember that he was a real man, and he did have a family life, and he did have, he was married, he had children, and his son William, like I said, was very involved in his kind of testing of his clock. So that kind of makes him a little bit more real, which is really why we wanted to show you his home today, and to kind of bring it back and make him a little bit more real for you. So thank you so much for coming on this tour with us, and we hope that you enjoyed it. Bye!